Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're venturing into some pretty wild territory, I have to say.
Definitely feels like that, yeah.
We've got this really fascinating and, well, let's just say, unusual piece of source material. It's information from a Tolan vlog transcript all about the Book of Oahspe.
Ah, yes, Oahspe.
Yeah, this self-proclaimed prophetic text from the late 1800s. It covers, well, basically everything. Cosmos, lost continents, human origins.
It really does. The scope is just enormous. Oahspe presents itself as this, entirely new scripture,
Right.
supposedly dictated through automatic writing.
Yeah.
And inside its pages, you find this unique cosmology, a really detailed history of humanity with multiple different lineages.
Multiple lineages. Okay.
And surprisingly specific claims about ancient civilizations, lost continents, and even a connection to a specific group of people today.
Exactly. So our mission, you could say, for this deep dive is to unpack those core stories from Oahspe, especially these pretty fantastical accounts of lost worlds and the eyebrow-raising stuff about where different human groups came from.
And we should probably state up front, this is miles away from standard history or science.
Oh, absolutely. We know that.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes exploring these, fringe texts, you find these weird echoes of myths or legends or maybe even accidental parallels with scientific ideas. It's interesting territory.
Yeah, it really is. And the story behind Oahspe itself is quite something. The transcript mentions the author, John Newbrough.
Right, Newbrough.
He seems to have had a fairly conventional, successful life at first. But then he took this sharp turn towards spiritualism.
What prompted that?
Seems like personal loss, his mother's death,
Yeah.
and also his father had some spiritual experiences. It kind of led him down that path, exploring mediums, spiritualism.
Okay, so he starts researching this whole world. Mediums, seances, that kind of thing.
Exactly, and that leads him to develop this technique, automatic writing.
Automatic writing. So the idea is he wasn't consciously writing it.
That's the claim, yeah. He believed, or stated, that the book was basically dictated to him by angelic beings, he said, downloaded directly into his hands, bypassing his own thoughts.
Wow. Okay. A divine download. That's a big claim.
A huge claim. And the transcript really emphasizes the sheer effort involved. Apparently, he spent nearly a whole year, day in, day out, doing this automatic writing.
A year. Just channeling.
That's the story. And the result is just massive. Oahspe is something like 1.5 times the length of the Old Testament.
Yeah, well, really?
Yeah, 39 chapters, roughly 2 million words. I mean, regardless of how it came about, that's an epic undertaking.
2 million words in a year. Okay, that definitely sets the stage. So with that kind of intense origin story, what does Oahspe actually say about, the universe? How does it depict creation?
It paints this picture of a structured cosmos, 3 main levels or realms.
Okay.
First, there's the corporeal realm. That's us, the physical world. Pretty straightforward.
Right. Material reality.
Then there's etheria. That's described as a lower spiritual realm, maybe less dense spiritually.
Less dense. Okay.
And above that is the atmosphere. This is the higher spiritual realm, seen as denser spiritually. And it's even subdivided into more layers, Ga, Agi, and Nebula. Think of it like, levels of spiritual reality or refinement.
So like a ladder of spiritual existence, corporeal, etheria, atmosphere.
Got it. And who's at the top? Is there a creator figure?
Yes, the ultimate creator is called Jehovah.
Jehovah, okay.
And according to Oahspe, our purpose, human existence, it's all about a journey. We start here in the material world, learn what we need to learn, and then we're meant to progress spiritually, kind of climb back up that ladder towards the Etherean realm.
How do we do that?
It talks about raising the soul's light, which sounds a lot like, accumulating virtue or spiritual merit through how you live. Good deeds, spiritual growth, that sort of thing.
Right, like leveling up your soul.
Yeah.
Makes sense in that framework. So, what about Earth itself? How does Oahspe explain our planet's creation? The transcript describes it as pretty dramatic, actually, whirling vortexes in space, pulling stuff together. Gas, dust, whatever.
Okay, cosmic whirlpool.
Yeah, forming this fiery ball. And then Jehovah places this ball into something called Simu.
Simu, what's that?
Described as like a mix of gas and solid particles, kind of like a cosmic womb or something. And Oahspe also gives planets a life cycle. 4 stages.
Like people?
Kind of. Infancy, then a reproductive period, then old age, and finally death. The planet itself dies.
Planetary life cycles.
Yeah.
It's interesting. What happens during this reproductive period for Earth?
Well, that's when Oahspe says animal and plant life were created. But, and this is a key point, it claims they were created distinctly. No intermingling of species.
Ah, so directly contradicting Darwinian evolution then.
Completely.
Yeah.
It posits separate creations, but interestingly, the transcript does mention a potential, maybe coincidental link to the scientific concept of Pangaea.
This supercontinent? How so?
Because Oahspe also describes Earth's landmasses changing dramatically over huge timescales. So while it rejects biological evolution, it includes this idea of geological transformation, which kind of rhymes with Pangaea, you know? It's a weird mix.
Yeah, definitely a clash with biology, but that geological aspect is intriguing. Okay, let's get into the really unique part. Human origins, according to Oahspe. Where do we fit in?
Right, so the first humans, according to Oahspe, are called the Oahspe.
Oahspe.
They were created maybe 70, 80,000 years ago. The text equates them with Adam and Eve, and they're described as having notably long arms.
Long arms, okay, like apes or...
It doesn't quite specify beyond long arms.
Yeah.
So that's the first group, the Oahspe. Then, about 6,000 years later, things get more complicated. Oahspe introduces angels.
Angels, like spiritual beings.
Yes, but here's the twist. They are spirits from other realms who were apparently given physical bodies to live on Earth.
Whoa, okay, angels walking the earth, literally. That's a concept you see in some myths, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Beings from elsewhere taking physical form.
Yeah.
So you have the Oahspe, and now you have these embodies angels. And this is where the trouble starts.
Ah, I sense that coming. What happens?
Oahspe talks about a forbidden mingling between the angels' embodies and the original Oahspe humans.
Forbidden love, angel-human style. Okay.
And this union, this mingling, supposedly produces a second human lineage, a more advanced one. They're called the Ihin.
Ihin. How are they different?
Described as having white or yellow skin, fully bipedal, smaller than the Oahspe, but crucially much more intelligent. And their spirits were considered immortal.
So a leap in intelligence and spirituality, and then what? Did things calm down?
Not quite. After the Ihin emerge, Oahspe says archangels, like one named Cesarf, were assigned to kind of govern Earth and guide these new humans.
Archangels in charge.
And the Ihin, this new advanced group, they were specifically instructed not to mingle with the original Oahspe.
Another prohibition, let me guess.
Yeah, you guessed it. Command disobeyed. Some Ihin did mingle with the Oahspe.
Uh-oh. What resulted from that union?
This creates a third lineage, the Drux.
Drux. Okay, keep them coming. What were they like?
The Drux are described as taller and stronger than both the Ihin and the Oahspe, brown or black skin. But here's the catch. They supposedly lacked the higher intelligence and the morality of the Ihin.
Ah, so strong, but maybe less developed mentally or spiritually.
That's the implication. And this difference apparently led to conflict between the Ihin and the Drux. It got bad enough that the Drux were eventually kicked out of whatever paradise setting they were in. Exiled. Okay, so we've got Oahspe, original, long arms, Ihin, advanced angel-human hybrid, and Drux, strong Ihin Oahspe hybrid, exiled.
This is quite the family tree. Does it stop there?
Nope, keeps going. The exiled Drux then apparently mingled with the remaining Oahspe.
Okay, Druk plus Oahspe equals...
A fourth lineage called the Yaks.
Seriously?
That's the name of the text, yeah, Yaks. And these are depicted rather negatively. Hunchbacks, long arms, again like the Oahspe, maybe even quadrupedal. And importantly, unlike the Ihin, their spirits were not considered immortal.
Wow. So kind of a devolutionary step almost. And what happened to the original Oahspe in all this?
According to Oahspe, the Oahspe lineage just died out eventually, became extinct.
Okay, so Oahspe gone. We're left with Ian, Drux, and Yaks. A lot of different human types. This is so far removed from anything like modern anthropology.
Completely different picture, yeah. And as you might expect, with these different groups, things didn't stay peaceful.
I imagine not.
Warfare apparently erupted, specifically between the advanced Ihin and the stronger Drux. It got so bad, Oahspe says, that it required some kind of divine intervention to sort it out.
Divine intervention. Okay. And did more mingling happen? It seems to be a theme.
It is. Out of the conflict, or perhaps during it, another lineage emerged from the mixing of Ihin and Drux. The fifth lineage, the Iwan.
Iwan. Okay, number 5. What's their story?
Described as intelligent, red-skinned, tall, and strong. Interestingly, they initially acted as protectors for the Ihin.
Ah, allies for the year.
For a time. But then, the alliance broke down and the Iwan turned against the Drux. So, more conflict. And Oahspe also throws in mentions of creatures that were, quote, between human and beast appearing during this chaotic period.
Whoa, like hybrids or something really strange that blurs the lines even further.
Exactly. It's a very tumultuous picture of early human history, or prehistory, I guess.
So what happens next? Is there a major event that changes things?
Yes, a huge famine. It happens after the gods, maybe the archangels, it's a bit unclear, kind of withdraw their direct help or influence.
Yeah.
This famine hits everyone hard,
Except
the Ihin, who were apparently prepared for it. They survived. And after this period of hardship, the Ayin civilization really takes off.
Where?
On a continent called Pan. And the transcript makes a point of saying Oahspe connects this landmass geographically to Japan.
Wait, Pan is linked to Japan. And this is where the advanced Ayin civilization flourished. When was this supposed to be?
Around 42,000 years ago, according to the text. And yeah, they're described as having advanced technology, big ships for seafaring, even writing.
42,000 years ago, an advanced civilization on a lost continent tied to Japan. Okay, that's a huge claim. That definitely grabs your attention.
It really does. It connects this ancient, mythical-sounding past directly to a specific place today.
So what happened to this amazing Ayin civilization on Pan? Did it last?
Oahspe says no, it declined. The reason given is a spiritual decay.
Ah, the classic fall from grace.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The Ayin on Pan supposedly lost their spiritual focus, and also, interestingly, their reproductive drive started to falter.
Less spiritually focused, fewer kids.
I know. And this weakness, or perhaps this change, led to more mingling again between the Ayin and the Druks, which resulted in the Aiwan lineage, remember them, the fifth group, re-emerging or becoming more prominent.
The protectors who turned aggressors.
Right, and this ultimately led to renewed, intense conflict. The Ayin civilization was basically wiped out everywhere except on the continent of Pan itself.
So Pan, linked to Japan, becomes the last refuge, the final stronghold of these ancient, advanced Ihin people.
Exactly. That's the setup, according to Oahspe.
Tell me more about Pan, then. This connection is key.
Yeah, the Tolan vlog transcript points out that Oahspe's Pan sounds a lot like a precursor to the more famous legend of Mu.
Right, Mu, Lemuria, those lost Pacific continents.
Exactly. So Oahspe describes this advanced Ayin civilization thriving on Pan, but then comes the cataclysm. Around 24,000 years ago, Pan sinks beneath the waves.
Why? What caused the sinking?
The reason given in Oahspe is, again, sort of a moral failing. Human arrogance, wickedness, the hubris leading to destruction narrative. It's a very common trope in these kinds of stories.
True. So did anyone get off Pan before it sank? Any survivors?
Yes. According to Oahspe, Jehovah saw it coming and warned the Ayin. Told them to build ships. Get ready.
An arc story, essentially.
Kind of, yeah. A technologically advanced arc story, maybe? The transcript gives really specific numbers. 12,420 escaped.
12,420, that's precise.
And 138 ships, divided into 5 fleets. They even have names: Gautama, Simu, Ham, Fet, and Isa.
Wow. Okay, 5 fleets sail away from seeking Pan. Where did they go? What happened to them?
Well, Oahspe maps out their journeys. 4 of the main fleets, Gautama, Simu, Ham, and Fet, supposedly reached different parts of the world: the Americas, India, China, Egypt. They founded civilizations there.
So they seeded cultures around the globe.
According to the book, yes. But it also says those particular descendant civilizations eventually died out or failed around 3,000 years ago.
Okay, so those branches didn't last. What about the 5th fleet, the Isa?
Ah, the Isa fleet. They had a different fate. Oahspe says they sailed to the northern remnants of the sunken continent of Pan, an area that was still above water.
The leftovers of Pan.
Yeah, and Oahspe calls this remnant land Zapan.
Zapan, sounds like.
Exactly. Oahspe explicitly identifies Zapan as modern-day Japan.
Whoa, okay, so Japan isn't just linked to Pan, it is the surviving part of Pan, and the Isa fleet landed there. That makes the connection incredibly direct.
It really does. It positions Japan as the direct inheritor of this Ihan lineage that escaped the cataclysm.
Did the Ihan line survive purely in Japan, or did they mix with others?
They did blend. The Aiwan, that 5th lineage, were apparently already present in Zapan, or arrived there too, so the Isain mingled with the Aiwan. But crucially, Oahspe says the Ayin lineage itself didn't die out in Japan. It persisted.
It survived, and Oahspe actually uses the word Japan.
Yes, the transcript confirms Oahspe directly mentions Japan, and it designates the people of Japan as, quote, the oldest people on earth.
The oldest people?
Holders of a key to unlocking the works of heaven, supposedly 24,000 years after Pan sank.
Wait, 24,000 years after the sinking, which was 24,000 years ago.
Right now, or very close to it. Oahspe seems to pinpoint our current era as a time when Japan's ancient heritage becomes crucially important.
So, this 19th century book singles out modern Japan as having this unique spiritual destiny rooted in a lost civilization. What were they supposed to do? Did the Aihin leave instructions for their descendants in Japan?
Apparently, yes. The Aihin who settled Japan were told to preserve certain things very carefully.
Like what? Sacred texts.
Specific things. The names used in God's rituals, the names for the earth, water, sky, ships. And, this is a really curious one, all the distinct sounds the human throat can make.
Preserve sounds, not just words, but the actual phonetic sounds. That's
Yes.
unusual.
Very specific, isn't it? It suggests a deep connection to language, vibration, maybe chanting or mantra, something fundamental about sound itself.
Okay, that's fascinating. Does the transcript or Oahspe try to connect these instructions to actual Japanese culture or mythology that we know?
It explores some potential links, yeah. The transcript suggests, for example, that the emphasis on preserving names, divine names, names of nature, might resonate with practices in Shinto.
Ah, the indigenous religion of Japan, with all its kami and reverence for natural features.
Exactly. That reverence for specific names and places. Also, the whole story of the Aihin escaping Pan by ship could, maybe, connect to some Japanese myths about migrations across the sea, ancient origins from elsewhere.
Possible parallels there. What about the people themselves? Any link made to specific ancient groups in Japan?
Tentatively, yes. The transcript mentions the Jomon people.
The very ancient pre-agricultural culture of Japan, known for their pottery and, relatively speaking, peaceful existence.
That's them. Because of their antiquity and seemingly less conflict-ridden history compared to later periods, the transcript floats the idea that the Jomon could be descendants of these Isafleet Ihinan survivors.
The Jomon as the inheritors of Pan's legacy? That's quite a thought. Could their culture, their unique art or beliefs hold clues?
Well, that's the big speculation, isn't it? Could remnants of that supposed advanced Pan civilization be subtly preserved in Jomon culture? It's highly speculative, of course, but Oahspe opens that door.
And what about that instruction to preserve sounds? Any connection there?
The transcript brings up the Katakamuna and Fudomani texts.
Ancient, somewhat mysterious Japanese documents.
Exactly. Some researchers believe these texts encode deep knowledge through their phonetic symbols and structure. So the transcript suggests a potential, again speculative, link between Oahspe's instruction to preserve sounds and these texts that seem to focus on the power and structure of sound and language.
Oh, wow. Okay, whether you buy into Oahspe's origins or not, the internal detail and these potential strange connections are... well, there's something else for a book written in the 1880s.
The consistency, or at least the intricate detail, is remarkable. It builds this whole alternative world history.
Does it stop with the past and Japan? Does Oahspe look forward, offer prophecies or critique existing beliefs?
Oh, absolutely. It has a lot to say about other religions in the future.
Uh-oh. How does it view them?
It claims that around 750 BCE, false gods arose in those lower spiritual realms, the atmosphere.
False gods. You mean like trickster spirits?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Entities impersonating the true god, Jehovah. Oahspe actually names them. The transcript lists Lueme Mang, Kabalates, Ino, and one called Toto, or Gabriel.
It names names. And what does it say these false gods did?
Oahspe asserts that these figures became the founders or inspirations for the major world religions we know today.
Wait, so it's claiming the world's major religions are based on false gods? That's incredibly controversial.
Extremely. It basically says these religions originating from these false figures are the reason humanity is divided and constantly in conflict. It sees them as a source of the world's problems.
Wow. Okay. That's a radical critique. Does it offer any hope? A way out of this division?
It does. It prophesies a coming seventh era for humanity.
A new age.
Yeah. In this era, humanity is supposed to undergo this major transformation, shifting from being war-loving carnivores, as it puts it,
Okay.
to becoming peace-loving vegetarians, a fundamental change in nature.
Peace and vegetarianism. Got it. And what happens to those religions founded by the false gods?
The prophecy says these four beasts, that's what Oahspe calls the religions, will eventually be overcome. Their influence will wane, leading to an era of actual world peace and unity.
An end to religious division leading to peace. And does Japan fit into this future vision too?
The transcript suggests it does. Given Japan's unique spiritual history, according to Oahspe, that direct link to the Aiin, the preservation instructions may be a less dogmatic or more tolerant spiritual tradition. Historically, it hints that Japan might play a key role in this transition to the seventh era. A catalyst, perhaps?
So Japan isn't just the keeper of the past, but potentially a key player in ushering in this prophesied peaceful future. That ties it all together in a pretty dramatic way.
It really does. If you step back and look at the whole narrative Oahspe presents,
Yeah.
it's just immense. Multiple human creations, lost continents, advanced ancient tech, global cataclysms, survival in Japan, a critique of world religions, and this prophecy of a future transformation potentially linked back to Japan. It's a lot.
It is definitely a lot. It's one of those things where even if you approach it with total skepticism, the sheer audacity and scope provide that aha moment. For anyone fascinated by alternative history, mythology, lost civilizations, it ticks all those boxes.
For sure. It's kind of mind-boggling that someone in the late 19th century constructed this incredibly detailed, sprawling cosmology and history that touches on so many things people still speculate about today: lost continents, ancient aliens or angels, the origins of races, the future of humanity.
Right. It really makes you pause and you start wondering, okay, are there any distorted echoes of real things in here? Ancient migrations, forgotten histories, geological events misinterpreted, or is it purely imagination?
And that specific focus on Japan. What does it even mean if this obscure American text from the 1880s points to Japan having this unique destiny, this key role? It's a question that sits there regardless of the text's origins. It definitely encourages you to think about history, myth, belief, and how these strange narratives pop up and persist.
Absolutely. And that's really the takeaway for you, the listener. We encourage you to chew on these ideas. Think about the parallels you might see with other stories, myths, or even historical puzzles you know. What's your interpretation?
Yeah, is Oahspe literal truth, elaborate fiction, a coded message, something else entirely?
Whatever your conclusion, it's undeniably a fascinating deep dive into some really fundamental questions about who we are, where we came from, and maybe even where we're going. It's a story that once you hear it, kind of sticks with you.